So after high school, he in the book, I in the book after high school it skips ahead where he is working as an exterminator for Eco Labs, which is a local Indiana company. But at the time, he was almost 300 pounds and had kind of given up on life after basically dropping out of the United States Air Force Pararescue Unit. And the reason he dropped out was of a medical excuse, or not excuse, but medical exemption for sickle cell, which they discovered in him, which in fact would not have been a challenge for his military career because of physical attributes. But he used that as his exit from the pararescue unit, because one of the things he struggled with mainly with that was water training. He never learned how to swim and was negative buoyant, as he liked to say. And he had a lot of struggles trying to deal with that part of the training. And that was also when they found out that he had sickle cell. And he talks about how I don't know if he necessarily regrets his decision, but he saw that at the time he saw the easy way out and he took it. But it was during his time at Eco Labs that he happened to come home one day, and he said that he flipped on the TV and started watching a documentary on Navy SEALs. And he had never totally known what they were or their whole backstory. And he said that he watched for the 2-hour documentary or whatever it ended up being for the Navy SEALs. And he was extremely intrigued and wanted to be a part of something like that. So within a short amount of time, he ended up going to the Navy Recruitment Center and talking to them about wanting to join the SEALs and do the BUDS training and all this, and he wanted to basically get back into the military. The recruiter, surprisingly, considering he weighed about 300 pounds, was not deterred by his situation. And he talked afterwards, it was because that he could tell his internal determination and that he wanted it and he believed in him, and he wasn't going to necessarily let that deter him. And he told him that he had to lose and weigh in at 180, I believe, and he was told that he had to pass his ASVABs and get a certain score. And that was one thing he was terrible at, was education and schooling. He was never good at studying. He was never good at dealing with tests, and he had to hit a certain score to even be able to get into the Navy SEAL training. So he had 3 months to lose almost 100 pounds, or I think it was more, and to also study and pass ASVAB. And he studied for 2 weeks straight, and that was the first thing he focused on. He was able to study, and he was able to pass, surprisingly, and it was very emotional for him. He actually had begged the test instructor to let him know the score before he was supposed to, because he was so worried that he didn't pass. But he did make it, and he passed with the exact score he needed to get in. And from there on, he had to train. So he trained for 3 months and lost, I think he lost the weight. Let's just say he got into the course. But at the time, to do that and to hit his goal, he talked about how he would run 6 miles a day, go to the pool, taught himself how to swim 2 miles a day and doing laps, and then he would go to the gym and weight train for 3 hours. And between that, he would study ride his bike and study, and he would do like 25 miles cycling and all this stuff, training like crazy, dropping weight ridiculously. And that was when he started to get into his mindset growth. And that was one thing he said, that this was something where he struggled, and it wasn't something he started with himself. And it's something he had to work and build to, was his mindset, which I feel like he is known for mainly, if you know his content and who he is and what he preaches. But this was when he started to realize that pain is what you got to deal with to get through struggle, and that pain is necessary to get through life, and to reach the goals you want, you got to push past what you think is possible. So once he gets his training done, he is able to pass, and he is recruited into the Navy. And after that, he is welcomed to the Navy after passing his tests and his physical abilities. And he ends up moving to San Diego to do the training. He actually goes through Hell Week, which is the main thing he's heard about with Bud's training, 3 times. He had dropped out, or not dropped out, but had been forced out because of medical issues. And in his first go through Hell Week, I believe he made it about halfway. During his first Hell Week, he actually caught pneumonia. And during his training, he talks about how he was coughing and puking up blood, that his pneumonia was so bad and his lungs were so full of fluid that the doctors had to pull him out. And he talks about a story where during the training, he was so headstrong that even though he was basically dying, if he would keep going, he kept getting on the log as they were doing log carries down the beach. They kept pulling him off to basically tell him that he needed to stop and that he needed to go to the doctor. And then next thing you know, people were hearing over the radio that Goggins was back on the log, and they kept having to pull him off until they finally got him to the doctors. So you basically had to take I think it was probably a month hiatus on what he had to do with the military, but then he went back for round 2. And when he got back for round 2, he went through Hell Week like there was no tomorrow. Some of the people he was in when they were split into their boat crews, which is kind of like their team for the week, is some of the, I guess the most renowned person that he was with that in that group was Chris Kyle, which is the author and main I guess star, but the main story behind The American Sniper, and probably one of the most famous, I would say one of the most famous Navy SEALs in the past 10 years or so. And he was in part of his boat crew, and he kind of proved himself to be the main leader of that boat crew at the time, where he helped raise the morale of his boat crew to push forward and do more than any other group has ever done during Hell Week. And when he did that, let's just say he pissed off the brass, and they pushed him harder and made it more challenging on him in the Hell Week. Because within the last couple days, they basically get no sleep, but maybe an hour. And let's just say he was not allowed to get any sleep, hardly. And some of the instructors pushed him even harder and made him swim 2 miles out from shore and basically deal with hypothermic temperatures. And he just dealt with it, and he kind of proved them wrong. And he actually passed Hell Week that time basically with passing colors, but he ended up getting rejected from Buds for another medical reason. And the whole reason was during Hell Week he had fractured and broken his kneecap in several places. So his knee had swollen to the size of a grapefruit, and he had to pause his training for Buds, and they had forced him out for medical leave pretty much. And when he came back, they told him that this was his third and final chance, that if he had any medical issues and had to be resolved from the training again, that he was not able to come back and train. So he had proven himself the time before, but he had to go through Hell Week yet again, and he again passed with flying colors. At one point, he pushed himself so hard and so far that he had stress fractures on his shins, and to get through the rest of training, he had to tape up his legs every single morning, and he'd get to the base at like 4 a.m. to put basically 3 socks and several tape layers on both of his legs to basically deal with the stress fractures so that he could just physically get through the training. And because he pushed so hard and did as much, at one point when instructors were challenging some of his other SEAL trainees, as they were getting through it, they would pull him out of doing extra challenges like push-ups or physical activities during buds because they knew he enjoyed it too much, and which he kind of hated, surprisingly. But yeah, he passed with flying colors, and he finally became the Navy SEAL he had always wanted to be.